Line Unleashed back at you from right here at the Green Thumb Gardening Channel here in Grow Zone 8B, Tifton, Georgia. In today's video, YouTube want to start this video by saying Happy Father's Day to every father around the world, no matter where you are, no matter what your religion, race, creed, color is. I want to start this video by saying Happy Father's Day to you. We hope you're having a good time, no matter where you are. Next up, YouTube, I'm going to flip this camera around and show you guys what we have going on here today with a unexpected harvest video going on today here with our overwintering experiment with our Beauregard sweet potatoes that we had growing in 5-gallon buckets. As you may recall from that video series, we had our buckets filled half of the way up with organics in the bottom. So we indeed only had half of a 5-gallon bucket of soil in those buckets, and our Beauregard sweet potatoes completely outgrew that soil. The roots actually began to collapse the soil towards the inside of the buckets, and every time the sun came out, our plants really suffered from a lack of moisture due to the lack of soil in the buckets. So next year, YouTube, next year indeed, when we do attempt this same experiment again, we will indeed remove all of the organics from our buckets and fill our buckets completely from the bottom to the top of soil, giving our Beauregard sweet potato slips much more space to actually produce sweet potatoes. At any rate, YouTube, here on our front porch with Mrs. Rose et al. I'm going to flip this camera around right now and show you guys what we have going on. We're going to start by removing the vines from our Beauregard sweet potatoes in our first bucket. We're not quite sure how many sweet potatoes we do indeed have in these buckets, but we do know indeed that the sweet potatoes that are in these buckets have begun to push themselves up out of the soil. Again, we only have about 2.5 gallons of soil in these 5-gallon buckets, and we have about 2.5 gallons of organics down in the bottom of each one of these 5-gallon buckets. At any rate, YouTube, I'm going to flip this camera around for you guys right now and show you exactly what we have going on. Hang tight. All right, YouTube, indeed, here we are out on our front porch. We have Mrs. Rose et al. who's indeed going to conduct this harvest for us. She's going to start by removing the vines as close to the soil as possible from these buckets out here. And before she does that, YouTube, I'm going to show you exactly what I was talking about when I said we have sweet potatoes being pushed up out of the soil in these buckets. See that, YouTube? Every time we water these buckets, I have to come back out and put more soil on top of these buckets. And as you can see, these buckets are indeed filled to the rim, so we can't add any more soil to these buckets. And again, every time the sun comes out, YouTube, these plants are really suffer from a lack of moisture. The leaves completely wilt down, and no matter how much water we put on these buckets, it's not enough water on these buckets due to the fact that we only have about 2.5 gallons of soil in these buckets. Mrs. Rose is always going to go ahead and remove the vines from these plants at this time. We're not quite sure how many sweet potatoes we have in these buckets, but we do indeed know that next year, when we conduct this same grow experiment, we will fill our buckets completely from bottom to top with soil, have no organics down in the bottom, giving us a total of 5 total gallons of soil space for our Beauregard sweet potato slips to grow in. She's getting those vines removed right now, and hopefully, YouTube, we have more than just that 1 or 2 that we know is down there pushing up out of the soil down there. At any rate, this is indeed a grow experiment, so it doesn't really matter how many sweet potatoes we end up with at this point. Again, the grow experiment has been going on since last winter. I want to move these vines out of the way for Mrs. Rose et al. Right now. We will indeed be replanting some of these same Beauregard sweet potato vines in another location in our yard within the next day or so here, YouTube. Let's toss those out there for now. Come back and see exactly what it is that Mrs. Rose et al. Has going on with our Beauregard sweet potato overwintering experiment. Well, Mrs. Rose et al., you can tilt that bucket over to the side and dump some of that soil out onto the cardboard there. Put the bucket around the face. There you go. Appreciate you. I have no idea who that was, YouTube. Indeed, Mrs. Rose et al. Is attempting to remove 1 moderately sized sweet potato from these buckets. As you can see, these buckets are completely root bound with the roots from these Beauregard sweet potato slips that we had planted here. Check that out, YouTube. indeed a nice sized sweet potato. Again, the results of our overwintering experiment. Planted these Beauregard sweet potato slips back in October, I think it was, in these buckets, YouTube. And again, we had some really low temperatures at our greenhouse. As again, you guys may recall, our greenhouse was unheated and unlighted. And this is indeed the results of us growing our Beauregard sweet potatoes in 5-gallon buckets. Again, next year, YouTube, we will indeed fill our buckets completely with soil. Not sure if we have any more down in the bucket, but again, completely root bound. You can flip that thing over if you like, Mrs. Grows It All. May help a little bit. We did have that one nice size sweet potato. And as you can see, she's pulling out a bunch of smaller ones. There you go, that might help you out. Attempting to get that soil out of this bucket at the time. Completely, again, YouTube, completely root bound after about 5 months of growth between our greenhouse overwintering experiment and the last 2 months out here in our front yard garden extended grow area. We're actually in our backyard garden, bucket garden area back there. A lot of roots, YouTube, a lot of roots in this bucket. Try to dig as much of that soil out of there as possible if you can, and that soil is completely root bound. There shouldn't be that much more soil down in these buckets. Again, YouTube, as you recall, these buckets were only filled about halfway with soil, and the rest of that down in the bottom was organics. And again, those roots completely may have consumed the organics that were down in the bottom of this bucket, because she continues to pull out more roots.
There's the compost.
She says she's actually reaching the point of the compost. Yeah. So I'm not sure if there's any sweet potatoes down past the compost level or into the compost level, but she's gonna dump that soil out anyway. And we'll see what we have down there as well. Now I think that is what they actually end at. A lot of roots down in there, but I don't think there was actually any sweet potato growth down in the bottom where those organics were.
No, let me get the roots.
But yeah, she's gonna pour those roots out and show you this root ball that was actually down in the bottom of the bucket, YouTube. It actually had sweet potatoes developing in the bottom of this bucket. But look at that root ball, YouTube. Look indeed at the root ball we have in these buckets. Next year, indeed, YouTube, when we conduct this same growing experiment, there will be no organics in the bottom of our buckets. We will give our Beauregard sweet potatoes the entire 5-gallon bucket of soil to produce sweet potatoes in. We're gonna dust these sweet potatoes off, lay them out on our front porch right quick, YouTube, and give you guys a quick look at the total harvest from our first bucket of Beauregard sweet potato slips from our greenhouse overwintering experiment. And then we're going to continue this video with the second bucket and show you what we harvest from that bucket as well. Hang tight, YouTube. All right, YouTube, here we are on to our second bucket of Beauregard sweet potatoes from our greenhouse overwintering experiment. Mr. Grows It All is again going to do the same thing and start by removing all of the vines from these plants. I'm gonna toss those vines to the side. Save a lot of those vines to replant here, and that's probably our third or fourth crop of Beauregard sweet potatoes here in some other location in our garden. She's gonna go ahead and get started now. I'm gonna see what the results of this second bucket of Beauregard sweet potato plants here in our front yard from our backyard bucket garden. Nice, healthy looking vines, but indeed, YouTube, indeed, if I sat these buckets out in the sun right now, it will be wilted and suffering within minutes back there in our backyard bucket garden back there. It's extremely hot back there in the area where we have this our bucket garden located. There is absolutely no shade, no trees located in that area, and everything that's back there planted in this type of a hugelculture type manner in buckets like this is suffering. Again, as you may recall, we didn't plant our Idaho russet potatoes in that fashion. You have those buckets completely filled with soil, and even they at times suffer back there in that location in our backyard garden. Here we go, YouTube. We're going to start by removing some of this soil from this bucket, and hopefully we have one or two nice sized sweet potatoes in these buckets as well, in this bucket as well, YouTube. Again, if you're just joining this video at this point and you are indeed a father, no matter where you are in the world, happy Father's Day to you. We wish you many, many more. Hope this day finds you surrounded by family, friends, and loved ones. Again, here we are, YouTube, our second bucket of Beauregard sweet potatoes. Same scenario as the first bucket. The soil is completely root bound. It looks like I do see one potato down there in the soil down there. Looks like. So those are going to see if she can get this soil removed from these buckets, and hopefully we do have something down there in that soil.
So many roots.
Again, YouTube, next year we would not add any organics to the bottom of our buckets. We will indeed completely fill our buckets with soil from the bottom to the top. A lot of roots so far, YouTube, but not very many potatoes of any size.
I feel them.
She says she feels something down there on YouTube. I hope there's actually something down there besides all of those roots. As you see, she is struggling to get that clump of roots up out of the soil. And again, there's only 2.5 gallons of soil in these buckets, YouTube. Looks like she's almost got it. Wow, look at that, YouTube. Can you guys see the size of what she just pulled out of this bucket, YouTube? That is absolutely amazing. I'm going to let her show that to you herself. Look at that, YouTube. Indeed, we were not expecting a sweet potato of that size from these buckets, but we do indeed have two nice size Beauregard sweet potatoes from our greenhouse overwintering experiment. And she's pleased, YouTube. I can tell she's pleased. She's working hard over there, but indeed she's pleased by what she's pulled from up out of these buckets so far. Now look at those roots, YouTube. Just completely root bound. Again, it was only 2.5 gallons of soil in this bucket and 2.5 gallons of organics down in the bottom. Those roots seem to again grow all the way down past the organics into the bottom of the bucket down there. I guess maybe searching for moisture, because again, there was only 2, as you can see, and a half gallons of soil in these buckets, and that's the soil there. That's the organics at the bottom down there, YouTube. And yeah, she's gonna break that rest of that soil up and see if there's anything possibly in that soil, but I doubt it. Look at that, YouTube. Surprise, surprise, surprise. So again, YouTube, you guys already know that next year we will indeed be again conducting our greenhouse overwintering experiment. We will this year actually have some heat this winter in our greenhouse. We will have some light in our greenhouse, and we will have our buckets completely filled with soil and absolutely no organics down in the bottom. Are you pleased, Mrs. Rose, at all?
Yes.
She's very pleased, YouTube, and I'm very, very pleased as well. Look at that, YouTube. Again, our greenhouse overwintering experiment. And we did indeed, YouTube, indeed grow several nice sized sweet potatoes. Again, our sweet potato plants and their roots completely ran out of soil in these buckets, as you can see. Our roots permeated these organics all the way down to the bottom of the buckets, looking for somewhere else to produce potatoes and more soil and more moisture. Had we not had the organics in the bottom of the buckets, YouTube, had we not had these organics in the bottom of the buckets, we would indeed have had a much more extravagant harvest than what we currently had today. But at any rate, YouTube, we're in no way disappointed. We do now know that we can indeed grow Beauregard sweet potatoes in our greenhouse during the winter. We know, we learned from this experiment what we do indeed need to change about how we conduct this experiment again this winter. And we'll be making those modifications and changes. Again, no organics, YouTube, no organics in the bottom of our 5-gallon buckets this winter, as we again conduct the same overwintering experiment with our Beauregard sweet potato slips. But this, YouTube, this YouTube, this is indeed the result of our greenhouse overwintering experiment with our Beauregard sweet potato slips, YouTube. Take a look at this. Bam. Again, we had 2 of these 5-gallon buckets. As you recall from our earlier statements, and as we showed you during the experiment, during the harvest itself, we only had about this much actual soil in these 5-gallon buckets. The rest of this bucket was actually filled from this point to the bottom with, again, these organics. Our sweet potato vines and their roots completely ran out of space to grow and begin to actually push the top 2.5 layers of soil up out of the buckets, revealing our sweet potatoes to the sun. Any of you guys know potatoes and exposure to the sun do not make good friends. If a potato gets exposed to the sun will indeed turn that potato green, produce toxin in that potato, and make it inedible. Again, YouTube, we're going to harvest a lot of these vines, plant those vines at another location in our front yard garden, extended grow area, in our backyard garden, bucket garden. Again, we have plenty of time in the grow season to actually grow more Beauregard sweet potato plants with these same slips. We probably will end up again doing that without the organics in the bottom of the buckets. But this is YouTube. This is indeed what our overwintering experiment from our greenhouse grow experiment currently look like right here, right now. Take a look at this, YouTube. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Quite a nice sized few potatoes. A bunch of small ones. We do know that we would have had some actual soil in the buckets. We would have had some much larger potatoes. Again, our potato plants ran out of room to grow, but we're not in any way disappointed, YouTube. Thanks for watching. And if you heard currently watching this video and not already subscribed to the Tifton Garden channel, please take this moment to press that subscribe button beneath this video, that like button, that notification button, and be sure, YouTube, be sure to share the video with your friends and family as well. Yeah. Our 2020 Beauregard sweet potato harvest from our greenhouse overwintering experiment. Thanks for watching, YouTube.
Yeah. Go hard. Yeah. Go hard. Go harder. Go hard. Go harder. Go hard. Go harder. Go hard. Go harder. I met this OG on Liberty told me, go hard and make them feel me when I'm on the boulevard. When mothers get the nerve to test me, leave them scarred. No waste no money on making it rain. At the bar, he told me once you get your boys hurt, don't stop. Them labels hate, but they can't touch you. On the top, just sit back and lie and watch as all their apples fly. And keep on cashing checks each time your song drop. He told me everybody in your circle ain't your friend. Don't know the game and they don't wanna see you win. Like snakes off in the craft, they're solid, but listen in. Claim that they got your back, but quick to turn you in. Don't tell the whole world about how you make your moves. Remember lying, you ain't gotta think to prove. Don't ever auto-tune and keep it old school. If Bobo gets behind you lying, play it cool. Go hard, go harder, 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 go hard, go harder. He told me every time you hit the mic, rip it up. Don't ever stop rapping till you get enough. Don't be no gangster that can get you locked up. And before you even think of stroking, wrap it up. He said, lying, don't you let this world bring you down. Some people gonna hate you cause your skin is brown. Don't walk through life with blind eyes. Look around.